All right, welcome in everybody. Another 5 minutes with Sean, maybe 10. As a matter of fact, this is a winding down episode here for 5 minutes with Sean. Starting next week, we launch into season 4 of the Car Biz Chronicles. But before we get there, I am so excited to have our next guest on. I have been watching her for quite some time. She is what I would call an automotive educator to the consumer, my friends. She is out here trying to help the consumer understand the journey, understand their credit, understand what's BS, what's real. So if you don't watch her, you need to watch her. Everyone, please welcome Regina Woodward. Regina, how are you today?
Good morning, Sean. Thanks for having me on your awesome platform. I really appreciate you taking this time to interview me.
Oh, you are welcome. You are welcome. Look, I like the exchange that we had. We had a little exchange through LinkedIn. You'd ask me, how do people qualify for the show? I told you it's been being great and making our industry better than we found it. And you, my dear, are doing just that. But as is customary with this season, it is not about what the host wants to talk about, but it is about what the guests want to talk about. So, Regina, please tell us, what do you want to talk about today?
So, Sean, I want to talk about the subprime world, the niche, or just the subprime market, because since COVID-19, customers, people, incomes and changed. They lost a job, collect unemployment. Maybe somebody's spouse died or someone died in the family. Just life happens. But my entire 23 years in the automobile business, I've always wanted to educate the customers. And I'm on here just to share what's going on and just saying, hey, just hang on, because it's still life right now.
I love it. I love the subprime world. I always have. Part of the biggest thing for me is the respect of the subprime journey. And I don't think enough people have respect for folks in that situation, Regina. So I know you've been dealing with it quite some time. So what stands out to you as sort of I don't want to say an issue, but what are the negatives you think that surround the idea of subprime, and why people, from a consumer perspective, may avoid it? Also, why dealerships may avoid it? What are your thoughts there?
Well, as far as the customer perspective, the negative things about it is that they feel that they are not treated fairly. Subprime and people's credit is affected on all platforms. It doesn't matter whether you make $20,000 a year to $500,000 a year. It doesn't matter, because you have the attorneys, you have the doctors, and especially attorneys. Some of them have bruised credit. And why do they have bruised credit? It's because they start off, they may have that huge case, but then they might have another case until 90 days. But they have to pay their main bills, right? Their housing expenses, they have to eat, their lights, their gas. And then, they pay their car payment in between. So I'm all about the customer, right? But, it's about letting them know it's okay. It's people like me, individuals like me, that will walk you through the process, or other individuals that care about their customers will do the same.
I like how you say that too about the credit. Credit doesn't discriminate based on income. I know people assume that you make 6 figures, maybe you make 7 figures means you're an 800.
Yes.
That's actually not my experience. Those people tend to be over leveraged, and credit scores are a lot about your leverage internally, right? Mm-hmm. So I'll never forget. We had a guy come in while I was first started off in the business in Chicago. He walks in, he wants a brand new Z06 Corvette. Mm-hmm. Boom, done. He wants credit. Boom, done. We pull his credit. He's got 3 boats, 2 helicopters, a jet. The guy has zero. He has 0 credit available. He has 0 money. He's like a 500. And when we
maxed out,
right? And when we tell that to him, he is offended. Like we're the ones who have created his credit score. And the reality is, sir, it's numbers on a screen. And when those numbers on a screen are more than your income, it don't matter what the income is, the credit will speak to that. So, Regina, what do you do? What's kind of your first steps with a customer? Is it identifying that the subprime need, or are you someone that sort of I don't mean this in any sort of negative way, but I think you mean to do this, but do you attract these people? I mean, it's what you talk a lot about. So I assume people do come to you, hoping you're an expert in the field. Is that what happens?
Well, yes, I do attract those customers just by, Sean, I've been doing this for 23 years. So, I mean, I have always tried to educate customers on what they need to do. First thing what you want to do is you want to pull your credit report. You want to know what your credit score is. You want to know where you're going to fit, because I believe a lot of customers feel that, hey, you know what, maybe I can't qualify for this, or maybe I will. But the thing about us dealers, we're for the people, right? We want the customers, but the customer has to know that you have to know where you stand so you won't get taken advantage of. If there was like 1,500 people, or let me just say that if there was 10,000 people like me, it'd be different. Not saying that I'm perfect, but if it was 10,000 people like me or 15,000 people like me, it'd be a better world, But it is people out there that have the same passion that I do, right?
There
So
are.
I don't know if I don't know if I answered your question on that part, but
No, it does. It does, because again, it's about your passion, that you realize that you are going to attract these sort of customers because it is your design to do so.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
you have a desire to help them. It's like my buddy Frederick. His subprime hero is his name, Frederick Leonards. If you don't check him out, you should. I think you guys have a lot of discussions that go
Yes.
together. I think that the world needs more Reginas in it. I've always said that from a subprime perspective, what made us good at it when we did it at our stores wasn't the banks, wasn't this, it was the respect factor. It was the fact that you come to us with a problem, we don't make issue of it. We don't act like we haven't seen it before, But let me ask you something, because you are clearly, Regina, you are clearly a consumer advocate, which can be extremely difficult in our business. Okay. It can be. How does that go over with your management team, your ownership team, from your perspective as a person who does, really help and want to represent the customer? What's that like for you?
Well, let me just tell you, I develop a niche. I'm known as Regina, the Queen of car loans. So I have, the owner. I work at Joe Hammer Chevrolet, located in Waterford, Michigan, and he has a Chevy store, he has a Buick store, and he has a Ford store, and he has some other stores in the different states, right? And so we have developed a relationship. I've known the man. He's a second generation owner. I've known him since 2010, and our relationship is one of the best relationships that you could have with an owner. And I say that because I've honestly found my niche. It's because when it comes to subprime, while educating the customer and then putting them in the vehicle, they want before the vehicle, before they buy the car, in the middle of the sale, and they want after, right? They want to be able to talk to you 2 or 3 years down the line, right? They want to have a conversation with you. So my relationship with the owner is I bring my own business in. Of course, he loves that, right? Because I don't have to depend on customers that come through the door. Now, do I accept customers that come through the door that say, hey, I'm here, I saw you here, I want to talk to you. And that happens a lot of times, right? But when you can bring your own business into the dealership, that's just the best thing since sliced bread, right? You have to sit and wait for an up, right?
No. And Regina, I got to tell you, if you bring your own business in, it don't matter how much you want to educate consumers, dealers are never going to have a problem with that. With the cost of acquisition, you and I were talking a little bit about pre-show about what our company does. We see a lot of cost per acquisition numbers that can be outrageous, $400 or $500 a customer. But you're someone who is an entity. You bring customers with you. And I want to speak to the journey part of it. And I think this is important for people to hear. You spoke about pre-sale, during sale, post-sale. Now I want to focus on post-sale. Regina, talk to me about how your pipeline fills up with repeat and return business from you showing them the path early on, them doing the right thing, and then being able to upgrade out of those cars. How often is that happening to you in your world?
Well, I want to give you one example that really stands out in my mind. I was talking about this young lady yesterday. She came to me about 3 years ago, and she's in her 4th year now. She's been in her new car about almost a year and a half. So she came to me about 4 years ago, and she purchased a Malibu from me. And right then I was doing I was a finance manager, subprime finance manager, special finance manager. And I had two assistants, and she came, we went to school together, and she said, Regina, I never bought a car before. Can you help me out? Can you walk me through the process? I've always paid cash. I don't have any credit card. I don't know what to do. She was really crying in my office. And I said, I got you. No worries, right? I listened to her situation, right? I said, hey, do you know what your credit score is? And she said, no, Regina, my parents never taught me about credit. That's why I'm in this situation right now, but I want nice things. And so what I did was I pulled her credit report, right? Like we all do. And I submitted her to some subprime lenders because she didn't have anything. She had collections on her account. And then I talked to one of my the finance manager, the buy-in manager at one of the big banks, right? And so we talked about, I said, what about, like a first-time buyer program? They didn't have one, but, sometimes buyers, you have relationships, they'll look at the situation, right? And then they'll establish your issue or your problem or your story to you, and they paint the picture. And as being a subprime manager or being a person, right, you are to sell that story to the finance manager. Now, she passed and she was going to buy a car, but what she did was she wasn't honest with me on her job. She told me she had been 2 years on her job. And I said, after you buy your car, the bank's going to call and verify your employment. They're going to verify your job. They're going to verify your insurance. So keep your job. And right before she was about to sign the paperwork, she said, Regina, I haven't been honest with you. I know you got a favor done for me, but I haven't been 2 years on my job. I've only been 6 months. And then I said, you need to, this hopefully there's a lesson to you. Always be honest with the finance manager or your salesperson. Do not lie, because we will help you get by that certain issue, right? Or that certain problem. So with her being only those 6 months or 4 to 6 months on that job, because she had 2 jobs, I had to end up taking her to one of our subprime banks, right? The one, I don't even want to say their name, but they buy anybody. And I cautioned her, we talked about it. And I said to her, what do you bank? She banked at one of the big banks, which I don't want to say their name, but it's either, it's one of the big banks. We all bank at Chase or Huntington or Bank of America, right? So She banked there. And she was like, yeah, I bank it. I got a checking account. I'm good. And I said, well, no, honey, you need to belong to a credit union, because credit unions are for the people, by the people. And let me say that again. Credit unions are for the people, by the people, especially if you have subprime credit. Now, what is subprime credit? Subprime credit to me is anybody under a 620, 600 and under, you have subprime credit, but you can have a high credit score of a 680 or 700, but you may not have the necessary trade lines on there. But anyway, I know I'm telling a long story, Sean, but I like to, I'm getting excited. That's why I called you the wrong name, but
I like it. Don't stop.
Okay. So, I had to put her in, I told her, I said, hey, you need to go to this credit union. I have a relationship with this young lady, a couple people at this local credit union in Michigan, right? And I said, go to the credit union tomorrow, next week, put it on your calendar. And I said, when you going? She said, Regina, I'm going to go next week. Lord behold, she didn't go. So my sister did a follow-up call. Then I did a follow-up call within, I think it was like 3 weeks later. And I said, did you go? And she said, no, Regina, I didn't. So I gave my assistant the chore. I said, hey, follow up with her every 2 weeks to make sure she went. She went to the credit union. So a month later, she went to the credit union. 7 months later, she was able to refinance. Now, everybody's not going to be able to refinance in 6 months, 7 months, or not even a year. But she bought the car. She was in the car. She wasn't buried in her car. It was a good time in the automobile business. She wasn't buried. She put, I think it was like $1,000 down, and she only had 500 right then and there. So we didn't do the deal till a couple weeks later because of her not being honest. So she put $1,000 down. And so she went from double digits on her interest rate, which her interest rate was, I believe, was like 23 or 24%. And Michigan, Sean, the interest rate and highest interest rate you can have in Michigan on an automobile loan is 25%. So she was at 23, 24%. She was able to go to that credit union and get down to the single digits. I think she was paying like 9%, you know, and that's only because when she got there, you know, she actually opened up a secure card with the credit union. And then her job increased. She started putting money into a separate account because I said, hey, have your money going to the credit union. I know you believe in this big bank, but trust me, the credit union is for the people and by the people. So she kept her money at the big bank, but she also had majority of her money going to the credit union. So she was able to refinance. And I gotta use this word again, Lord behold, you know, I ended up going to a working at a Ford store, and because I got recruited for a Ford store in Detroit, and I went to go work there. And I thought her cell phone number was in my phone because she's on my email blast because people get emails to me at least once a month, and my number is there. And she said, Regina, you know, I get the email, but I didn't look for it. And she Googled me, and so thank God, because of Google, when you do your digital marketing, you do your advertising, right? You know, Google is your favorite, is my buddy now. So she found out where I was, and she said, Regina, I'm ready to trade in. I have $3,000 down. And I said, wow, you've been saving your money. She said, Regina, you helped change my life. And I said, well, how did I help change your life? She said, because, you know, you told me about the credit union. The credit union, they took care of me. I was able to refinance. I was able to save some money because I said, hey, you know, are you putting that extra money into another account? Are you thinking about retirement? Because we're the same age. So she came in and she got a brand new Ford EcoSport from me. Brand new. 2000, was it 2018? 2018, 18, 19, I think it was like 18 or 19, 2000 EcoSport, because we were in between the next model year. She put the money down, Sean. She got done by a credit union, 3.9. Now, she trusts me. So she did purchase a warranty because she said, Regina, I'm traveling a lot of miles now, more than I ever had. So she got a warranty. She got tire and wheel. And guess what? She did have a conversation with me, in February, because she was having an issue with her car. And it was a Ford, and she didn't understand why she couldn't get a rental because COVID really started kicking in like in February. I'm assuming in the Ford market, you know, as far as the rentals. Yeah. And she asked me for some advice. But anyway, that's my story, my huge story that really has been with me for a while, for a couple years now, because she really had a special place in my heart because we go to school together. Yeah, so that's my success story.
I gotta tell you, I imagine that's the one that stands out to you, but it is one among many. If you take this much care, this much time, you go through all of this, a lot to unpack there. Most important thing for me, and I hope for people watching and listening to the show, wherever it is they're doing that, is that it's about taking care of people. And Regina, you talked about how the credit union is, you know, by the people, for the people. I got to be honest with you, Regina sounds a lot like for the people, by the people. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So I think there's a lot of what you do, and there's a lot of care that goes into it. And I don't think that our industry has enough of that in general. And then you throw on the idea of a subprime credit world. When dealing with this over the years, and then COVID happening, have you seen more people in this situation, less people in this situation? What does it look like to you over, let's say, the last 3 years of subprime business?
Well, Sean, subprime business is never going to go away. You know, I had to educate my dealer on that, you know, because we're in the heart of Waterford, Michigan, and he knew it was there, right? And of course, but it was the clean insight of saying, you know what, this is never going to change. This is never going to go away. Not even with COVID happening, before COVID, and now, because people are always going to have a situation. The problem is that people run from this situation. You know, they may have the nice car, the nice house, you know, but it's in someone else's name. They make the money, but it's in someone else's name. So how I look at it right now, when you have a niche, whatever you do, just like you said, your friend is a subprime hero, right?
That's
Right,
I mean,
Sean?
that's the people who have nicknamed the guy, right? I mean, that
Right,
my
right, right.
friend
Yeah,
must be
yeah.
getting some
No. I know who he is because I think I follow him, right?
Yeah.
And it's like when you develop a niche, right? You have to be able to attract everybody because remember, subprime credit doesn't have a face, it doesn't have a nationality, it doesn't have an income. It's all across the board, and people have to trust you. And so I myself is like, you have to be trustworthy. People have to know, you can't know the next person's business or what their situation is. And 78% of my customers have boost credit, but I got the percentage of people that can walk in and pay cash. And I have people that live in those $400 or $5,000 houses or $1 million houses and had issues, right? Things change and they had to adjust. And how I look at it, it's all about pivoting and adjusting. And I think now the world, even the dealership world, is realizing we have to be able to pivot and do something else or attract our customers on a different level.
Yeah, and I don't know. I think the industry has always gotten a bad rap for not being able to do that fast enough. I've seen that in my own life, Regina. I think you have too. Our industry is much, I think it gets a lot of negativity unnecessarily. I think we've made some huge strides in the last 5 years. I think COVID accelerated a lot of things that may have taken longer. So I'm happy for that part of it. I'm glad that part has worked out. But I do like how you talk about it being faceless, about it not having a nationality. And to me, I think a lot of people get, look, they get down about it, right? So my quick own personal story as it relates to credit was I am someone who early in my life in the car business, I wanted everything and I had money to get everything. So I thought I was owed everything. And so I went ahead and took it. And I built this entire life on the car business income, the car business ideas. And my wife and I, unfortunately in 2008, 2009, we lost everything. Every single thing you could have, I lost. Multiple houses, cars, didn't go to bankruptcy, lost them all outright. You know what I mean? Foreclosures, repos. Boom, here it is. I'm making, $250,000 a year and I have nothing. I have zero. It's all gone because the $250,000 went down to 150, which then went to 125. And before you knew it, you were under 100 and you didn't even know how you'd gotten there. You didn't even realize how it happened to you. So my wife and I we'd made a move, started I had started a corporate job and we walked in to get a mattress and we were like, yeah, let's just have them rebuild the credit, on the mattress. And honest to God, we were just talking about this. We got turned down. And it shook us to the core to think that things had gotten so bad in our credit lives that we couldn't get approved for a $900 mattress at 0%, right? We couldn't believe it. So we left there saying, this is never going to happen to us again. Everything we do is going to be about cash. Everything we do is about rebuilding, redoing. And now here we are 8 years later out of that situation, 9 years later out of that situation. And my wife's an 810, I'm a 780, and it has nothing to do with income. I want to make this extremely clear to you. It is zero based on how much money I have. Yes, there is a part of Facet that says income to debt ratio. So yes, it's not like you can have zero money and get shit. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is we rebuilt our credit on a third of the income we used to have. So it's about knowing your limits. It's about, in my case, not trying to keep up with the Joneses. But the most important thing, Regina, is the lesson. I learned the lesson. I'm never going to go back to living my life above and beyond my means. Regina, if you don't follow this woman, you should. Her name is Jennifer Welch. Yes, we share a last name. No, we do not share any relation whatsoever. And this goes for frickin' everybody on this show. If you don't follow Jennifer Welch on LinkedIn, you are doing yourself a disservice, okay? I'm going to continue to try and get her on my show. She's a hard get, but I'm going to try because I believe in her financial education for the masses. right, Regina? It's about financial
Yes. Yes.
and that's what you are, Regina. You are a financial educator. Whether you have a background in it or not, I do not care. You have the real life skills to help people understand. Regina, let's go to the origin story real quick. How did Regina get and fall in love with subprime business? Because clearly the passion is there. How did it get there?
Yeah. You know, I grew up, my dad worked at General Motors for 35 years. And I went to college. I graduated. I went to junior college at Oakland Community College, and then I graduated from Oakland University. Have an associate and a bachelor's, and I was the first one in my immediate family, actually, because my parents didn't go to college to get a college education, and I wanted to go in the field of social work, and that was my I wanted to help people, and so I had a couple jobs in the social work field. And I play basketball, and if anybody seen me stand up, back in the day, 5'11", 3/4, 6 foot was huge. I'm sorry about the anyway.
No problem. It happens.
Okay, so that was huge, and that being huge, I basketball. Education was the key, right? And so I also so close, I was very competitive. And one of my good friends, my best friend's uncle worked in the car business. And I was like, I think I want to sell cars. Because I was so competitive because of my basketball world. And when I got involved, I didn't realize how I could help so many people. So I got in the business in 1998. I actually was going around passing out flyers and talking to different people about me being in the car business. But what I noticed is a lot of individuals were coming in a dealership that worked at General Motors. They were getting their car fixed, but they were spending a little bit more time at the dealership getting their car fixed than being at work. And I was like, why are you guys not at work? They was like, oh, I'm going back. They spent maybe an extra hour, right? Had a 45-minute lunch. It took them maybe an extra hour with permission. But anyway, I just noticed that everybody that came in to get a car, not everybody, but let me just say, 50% of my business, that was back in the day when you had payroll deduct out your check, and you can get anything you want, whether it was a Pontiac, because I was working at a single point store, right? You can get a Pontiac, you can get a Cadillac, you can get whatever you want. It didn't matter about your credit. So most of the gym employees, they didn't really care about their credit because they got anything they wanted when it came to whatever they wanted to drop. And then a lot of them, a lot of my customers, they were renters. They were not buying, and they could get a car. But back, as you said, what did that year? You said 2008, 7, 8, was it when the bottom fell out of the market and everything changed? I realized that I had a niche because I was in the car business. I did a little bit of the mortgage. I became a mortgage broker, right? And I was seeing like, wow, this business is really the business to be in, right? But also being able to help people and educate them. So when I realized that I could educate customers, and I was doing it all along and didn't know what I was, didn't really know I was educating folks and didn't know they were really paying attention to me, I realized, I woke up and said, you can make a serious living in this. This is really good stuff. And so then I became the educator. And with being an educator, people in my area just start, back in the day, it wasn't texting. It was stopping into a dealership. It was calling, right? That was the way.
Yeah, for sure. You weren't even emailing, Regina. I mean, it was you were calling people, you were busting hump on the front end. So look, a couple of things there. The competitive nature, I think, is something that if you have it in you, the car business is a great place to let it run wild. I think it gives you the opportunity to write your own checks. Now, you, like many people, and myself included, you saw the money initially in the business. I mean, it was hard to avoid it when you were like, wait, you're going to pay me to what? To do this for what? And then you start to see it and you start to realize how it grows. And so for you to see it and then become, you said it, I'm going to help people, I'm going to help people. I love that because that's what I always did. I always loved to hear the stories. I never sold a car in my life. I sold people a need of what they had. I don't know shit about cars. I say it a million times. All I would do if you asked me to change an oil on a car is ruin whatever I was wearing because I have no clue. I don't know because cars were secondary to the people, to listening and what they needed and really engaging and giving a shit, which I think, Regina, sets you apart, is that you care. And you probably care a lot, but the fact that you care at all is a benefit to these people. And I imagine you've really gotten some great relationships, like the girl you mentioned recently, or any of the numerous customers that you have. But there's another side to this. It isn't all wonderful. Okay, there are some negatives to this thing, right? Mm-hmm. So why don't you talk us through some of the pitfalls that can happen to dealers getting involved in subprime? Because I think it's important we educate them. So let's start there, Regina. What warnings or hey, heads up, this could very well happen to you, would you have for dealers who are considering entering the subprime world?
Well, I mean, just advice to a dealer looking to enter the subprime world is just to get someone that's trustworthy or as a finance manager when it comes to the subprime world, because just because you have A plus paper, doesn't mean that you know how to handle the subprime world. But I would say you seek out an individual that you can trust and that has integrity, and that's going to go after your money. And I always say this: it's when it comes to an owner of a dealership, the most important person to the dealer, how I look at it, is the finance manager. And why? Is because they're getting the money, right? They're making sure that dealers getting their money. I mean, they love the salespeople, because when it comes to a customer, number one person the customer needs to be thinking about is the salesperson, right? Because they're the person in between the salesperson and then the finance manager. So the dealer should be looking for a trustworthy subprime finance manager. And then someone, back in the day, they had companies where they trained individuals, right? They brought subprime people into the dealerships. I don't know if you remember those days, right?
Oh, yeah.
They had their companies and they came in. Now what dealers are doing is they're looking for individuals that have been in the business, right? That has that background and that has the resources and that are trustworthy. Now, yes, for the young individuals that we want to grow, the individuals it's getting that mentor, right? That's mentor in the business so you can show that person at the dealership that level, right? And you train them to be able to deal with the subprime market, because you can have managers that deal with the subprime manager, but are you actually taking it? When you're a subprime manager, you have to look at, you are representing the owner, but you also got to be that relatable to the customer. I've seen subprime managers and they're not relatable to the customer. You got to wear two hats. You got to wear the hat where you got to be that person to get the dealer's money, right? But you also got to relate to the customer. And why do you have to be able to relate to the customer? Because that's when you're going to sell more penetration, more back end, And I sell now at Joe Longhammer Chevrolet, and I'm not doing the financing. I love what I'm doing right here. It's because I'm able to put a lot of things up under the umbrella of the Queen of Car Loans, right? And so I'm able to branch and build the other things that I have going up under it. But yes, do I want to one day, have a dealership or be an owner? Yes, that was in my resume of wanting to do that, right? But now it's like I kind of pivoted, but it's and I know I'm giving you a lot of things. I'm asking you a question, right? But let me just get back in the task at hand, because when I get excited, I get all over the place. But it's about having integrity, and then also again, have that person be relatable. And I say that is because the finance manager that I have right now at Joe Longhammer Chevrolet, this lady, she learned from one of the best in the industry in the area of Michigan, right? How I came across my brand, my mentor, right? And with her, we work together and talk about deals, but she has that relationship. She brings the wall down and she's able to let the customer, this is what you need, you know what I mean? This is what, of course, she got to look out for, it's all about it's all about making money in the penetration, but you have to let your customer know this is why you need it. And she's able to do that because if that salesperson sets that person up with the finance manager, you have to have communication and bring it together.
You again, you hit everything on the head here. So dealers, if you're going to get involved, you need to have someone trustworthy. You need to have someone relatable on the back end, someone that can help you through that process. Now, Regina, how long were you sitting in finance? I know you're back in sales now. How long were you in the finance role specifically?
Total, let me think about it. You know what? Almost 10 years. Almost 10 years. I worked where I am right now. I worked for, I don't want to give all the other dealers recognition, but I want a total of 10 years.
10 years in finance. I have to give you mad props.
Subprime.
Yeah, but either way, in finance departments, I spent 9 months as a finance manager along my journey. It was the worst 9 months of my career. I just did not enjoy it. I do not enjoy bankers. I do not enjoy the discussions. I do not enjoy the digging and the paperwork. I hate paperwork. But now you're in sales, and you and I are similar. You started in 98. I started in 99. But more importantly, behind that part of the story is where I come to next, which is you have always had a goal of having Regina Chevrolet, right? As I have had Sean Chevrolet goals my whole life. However, recently, much like yourself, I have pivoted off of that, realizing really what it means to be an owner. And as much money as I have or don't have, I don't have enough to get into that world to be a true owner. I'll always be 49% of something, which isn't really, in my opinion, owning anything. So when you talk about your pivot, Regina, what is your pivot now? If ownership is no longer, the main goal, what is Regina's goal now as a person, and what are you developing to help you with that goal?
Well, if it makes sense when you're doing something for 23 years that you love, right? So, the Queen of Car Loans has up under the umbrella Queen's Future Successors, which are individuals, young people between the ages of 10 to 18, where we teach them about financial literacy, checking, how to, making sure you should have a checkings, a savings account, just everything up under that. Our mission is to educate young adults or kids on what they need to do when it comes to buying a car. So I could talk 10 minutes on that, but I'm sorry.
I was going to say, my goodness, is that incredible work, Regina. Yeah. What a great concept. How did you develop the concept of the future like that? Where did that come to you at, and how long have you been doing it?
Well, Queen's Future Successors is for boys and girls. Queen came about because of me, right? Because of my name, Queen of Car Loans, Regina the Queen of Car Loans. But future is, they are our future. The kids are our future. That age, we need to be able to start at that age. If the problem is individuals started when they were 25, when they were 30, right? Yeah. Because they watched their parents, they watched their grandparents that raised them, and then they weren't taught about the financial literacy. They weren't taught how to buy a car. They weren't taught, well, you know what? I'm going to add my child to my credit card as an authorized user. Or I am going to have my child have a savings account, at that early age, and teach them about putting their money in their chore money, right? The ones they do their chore into an account. So they weren't taught that. And how do I know that? Because that was my customer. That is my customer base. So I wanted to give back with that. And we're working on curriculums. And right now I'm working with one of the local junior highs. And, we're rolling out another program in January. It's a 6-week program. And so we're going to be, encouraging those kids at their early age on what to do. And then also up under the umbrella, I'm working on, I have an online course module I'm working on, Keys to Your Brand New Car with Less Than Perfect Credit. because I want to be able to walk people, customers, right? Not just customers, because I know I'm in Michigan, but I mean, just walk people that are looking to buy a car with subprime credit through the process. So I have videos, I'll have not really lessons, but steps on what you need to do. Then I will have a Facebook group. So I'm not Sean, I don't have to be like the salesy person, because I just do what I do,
That's
and
right.
when you do what you do, people are gonna come to you. And I was blessed to be able to find you on LinkedIn. And that's only because of when you are friends with other people and you like other people, you like your individual person that's your friend on LinkedIn, you make comments, you get to get on their page and see what they do. And that's how I found you, so I was sneaking, and I don't want to say sneaking, but I was just paying attention. I said, this guy really has it going on, and I went back, looked at your episodes, and you actually inspired me, because I've listened to your story before, because you have always had good guests on your podcast. And when you do something from the heart, that's how your blessings come. Because people come to you when you're not trying to, I'm trying to say this. I'm like, no, it's conversation. And that's how people draw to you. And I just thank God now when it comes to women, we're now women at the table when it comes to being in the automobile business. We have a seat at the table now.
Well,
that's what's so.
And Regina, I came across your brand because of our mutual friend, Lori Holter. Lori Holter turned me on to you maybe a year ago and said, Sean, if you're not familiar, you should be. And I decided to do so because of that, and I'm glad women are at the table. Women should be at the table. They should be most of the table, if you want my honest opinion, because there is a clearer line of sight with women versus men when it comes to growth of businesses, projecting how things look in reality versus how you want them to look. But let's get back to this. So the education piece, I think, is absolutely freaking amazing. If me or anyone in my network can do, and I mean can do anything to help you with that part of your life, I want to know about it. I want to be a part of it. I think it's important. I go back to Jennifer Welsh. Jennifer Welsh has been talking about the lack of education. We do what we see, right? And most of us parents came in a different generation. Their parents a different generation than them. Financial education isn't great amongst people in the baby boomer world, right? And so here I am at 40 years old, and all I want to do is help people avoid every single financial misstep I have ever had. Now, I am fortunate that I married a financial wizard. Okay, this woman, when I met her, she was living on 25 grand a year on her own, doing her own thing. And I thought to myself, how does someone live on 25 grand a year? I mean, now I met her, I was making 20 grand a month doing what I was doing. So I just didn't understand how someone could make that work. I was like, this is silly. And she's like, I bet you 10 to 1 my credit's better than yours. And I'm like, yeah, right. You make no money. Like, how could you have better credit than me? Boom. Chick's an 800 score, can get whatever she wants with no money. And I'm a 600 because I'm just over leveraged, right? I bought my first house when I was 19. Then I bought another and another. And I got out of control. So I'm fortunate to have someone who knows it better than me. I used to pay my bills on a calendar. I used to walk into those big banks and pay my card note, pay my mortgage in person in cash. I thought that was what was it. Now, it's not that my parents didn't help. My parents got me a checking account as soon as I was qualified that they could sign up. My parents tried to do their best, but no one helped them. So you're going to break the cycle, Regina. I am freaking stoked for that. I am so excited. And on top of that, the Facebook group with a bunch of people who are probably in the same situation has got to be a beautiful sight, Regina. Tell me, how has social media, because you and I are the same, social media was not a thing when we began our businesses. Either we're CRMs, either we're BDCs, we got Rolodexes and our own dial-in, all right? But how has social changed the game for you, Regina, in the car business?
Well, social changed the game because, for one, I met you. I didn't know you, right? LinkedIn. I haven't met Lori. Laura. I met her on LinkedIn, and I can't even remember how I met Laura. I think it was me. She's friends with someone on LinkedIn.
Yeah, it might
And
have
I
been, it
just
may have been
started,
Tiffany Wells. It may have been, there's a few people I think that you all sort of interlock in the sort of women of automotive world right
yeah,
now.
that's
But
it.
either
That's
way, it
it.
doesn't matter,
That's
right?
it.
Point is,
Yes, yes,
we met her via social.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. So
So,
I mean, so social media have changed my life. Is Instagram is where I've gotten a lot of customers. Um, you know,
hold on
TikTok,
one
I'm
second.
beginning to.
Let me
Okay.
just, I want to go back to that though. So you talking about LinkedIn's good on the business, right? Business to business,
Yes,
linking more people
yes.
in the business, but you're finding a better consumer basis on IG than anywhere else. Is that what I'm hearing?
No, I'm finding, yes, I am. I'm finding on IG or Facebook. Facebook I've been on for years, right? So
Yeah.
I get customers from there, but my IG is lightening up now. It's because of, you know, the platform, the other platforms that's connected to it. So my IG is blowing up, and my TikTok is beginning to be able to grow. Even though I only have 645 followers, but I mean, I started this in the TikTok in February, and I'm really engaged in the last 3 months. So it's like people are talking to me more on those platforms than they are on the LinkedIn. But the LinkedIn has made me be able to develop relationships. People are starting to pay attention now, and I've been really engaged with that. I want to say, well, right at COVID time, right at COVID time, I had to pivot.
You say it a lot. You say it a lot. I think a
Yeah.
lot of people need to hear it, need to listen to it. All right, Regina, you've been more than gracious with your time. I know you're clearly a busy woman with all of these things, trying to help the future of our car buyers understand their lives. So I want to wrap it up with this. As we sort of take this and look at the whole thing, we look at subprime, we look at the journey. What closing advice do you want to leave? Because we've already talked about the dealer. Let's focus on what your most important goal in life is, and that's helping the consumer. What do you want to leave the consumer with? Because I think that's going to be the most important part of their journey. So what do they need to know if they fall into subprime, which we categorize under a 620 credit score? Folks, as Regina said, I'm sure there are all kinds of places you can pull your credit. You can look at all this. We'll have Regina put some links if she has them to some places, some resources for y'all when the show goes live. But Regina, what advice do you have for today's subprime buyer?
Well, my advice today for a subprime buyer is to know that things are not always going to be the same. You know, some people look at the situation and they figure, you know what, they just start having pity. And they got to know that they're not the only person, because I had a situation happen with me and I couldn't get what I wanted, right? So I had to figure out how I needed to get it, right? And I was able to do that. But let me just say this, know that you find someone that you can trust, when it comes to getting your credit together. I do that too. But find someone you trust to get back in the situation that you were in, and don't be ashamed. That's the only advice I can give you. No, don't. A lot of people, they wallow in their milk and they think that they're the only one, but it ain't about wallowing in the milk. Just like your situation. I had a situation happen with me. I knew I everything fell apart for me during 2008. I mean, I had the big house, I had the cars, I had to go into my savings, right? And I had to, and my investments, and I had to figure out my situation. I had to get out the car 3 months, get out the Range Rover 3 months early, right? And I had to get out my other vehicle 6 months early, and I was able to do that, but I had to, and then I had to let one of my rental houses go. So I had to not wallow in the milk, but I did for a good 2 weeks. I wallowed in my milk. But then I had one of my good friends say, you know what, this is not the end of the world. Well, how do you educate everybody else? You got to educate yourself. Get up and get it back going. Get up. Don't wallow in your milk. So what I'm saying, get up and don't wallow in your milk. Know that you can get back to where you were. And I give you some examples of people do that, but I won't do that because that might not be nice.
I appreciate it. I'm sure you've got a whole list of people who can do it. But the point is this, don't have pity on yourself. Your situation, while it feels unique to you, it truly is not, in given the biggest scope. And let's also not forget Last week on the show, we had Marco Zwanenberg talking about his journey through life. And one of the things that stood out to me, he said was, look, every time you're looking up at somebody, don't forget there are people below you looking up at your life. And so when you can give yourself the context of other people and other situations, you realize that while you feel like it's only you, it's not. And I'm not, and what happened to you and me in 2008, 2009 is not the minority. It is the majority of what happened to people. Okay.
Yes.
You know, that's the truth of it all. The uber rich will be the uber rich. You've seen that during COVID. The uber rich have only gotten more rich while the poor have gotten poorer, and the divide in this country continues. The problem is here at the middle, all of us in the middle, we've got to do a better job of pulling together in the middle. You know what I mean? So Regina, I want to thank you so much for not only being on the show, which, you know, that's obviously outstanding, but let's talk about how our goal here at Car Biz, our mission statement is to leave the car biz better than we found it. And I got to tell you something. I don't run across many people who are doing that to a T like yourself is. So I want to thank you for all that you do for our business, all that you do for our consumers. And I've already said it, but I will reiterate it. If me or anyone in my network can do anything to help you with the education of the next generation of consumer, we are all about it. So Regina, thank you so much for your time being on the show. You are tremendous. Where can folks find you, Regina, if they want to follow the Regina message?
Well, you know, you can, we're on, well, they can go to my LinkedIn account, or you know what, they can go to my website, Regina, the Queen of Carlones.com, and they can leave me a message on there. It's one for an appointment or make a comment.
That's awesome. Regina, if you could, when the show goes live on LinkedIn, if you could drop that link inside the comments yourself and let people know where exactly to visit you, I think that would be wonderful. Everyone, thank you so much for joining us. I hope it was as enlightening to you as it was me. We must look out for our future. And as I said before, this wraps up 5 Minutes with Sean, maybe 10 for about, I want to say the next 8 weeks. Coming in on here on Mondays will be the new season of the Car Biz Chronicles. Season 4 is going to be fun. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great week.